Welcome to Poland Daily History with me, Nicholas Richardson. And in this series of episodes, we're looking at another mid-20th century major Polish figure, this time a man of the church. And I'm delighted to have with me in the studio my colleague Adam Starzyński, our expert in all things historical and Polish. Adam, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Cardinal Hlond.
Yes.
A major churchman, primate of Poland.
Mm-hmm. One of the many important religious figures that have taken a political role in Poland during the 20th century. Naturally, as our state was under occupation for a couple of years during the Second World War, it also had very limited freedom during the Stalinist years and the subsequent communist years. Many Poles looked for a leadership, including political leadership among the clergy, which was slightly more difficult to pacify than the political class. Even if the Nazis persecuted them very severely during the Second World War, they still tried to keep up appearances with the Catholic Church. Naturally, they did fight a battle against the Catholic Church, but they had already decided on fighting a two-front war, so to say, and starting a third front. Well, it happened anyhow, but at least there were measures of how intensely they could choose to fight on that front. But if we look at the cardinal, he started his days in the province of Upper Silesia, where he was born in 1881. That part of Poland had been taken and annexed to, well, initially Prussia, but later the German Empire. For a while, it had also been ruled by Austria-Hungary. And it had a somewhat mixed Polish and German population. So these German-Polish relations were something that would have an influence on Cardinal Hlond's life and would also leave a trace behind in his legacy, because he became slightly controversial for the measures he took after returning to Poland after the Second World War. And there was this campaign of Poland had received some territories in the West. And there was already a Catholic German administration, so to say, with all the bishops that had been appointed by Rome. And a decision had to be taken what to do with them. Cardinal Hlond decided that as there was a population, well, maybe not so much exchange, but simply a population transfer, that the Germans that had lived in those areas were sent out, Poles were sent in. And Hlond believed that after what had happened during the Second World War, there was no hope for immediate reconciliation. And he believed that these areas should be completely Polish, and those German priests and bishops should be replaced by Poles. A decision which within the Catholic Church is by some, especially by the German clergy, naturally considered as quite controversial.
Indeed.
But if we go back even earlier in time, we can mention that he was a very gifted young man, and at the sheer age of 12, he was sent to Rome to start studies for becoming an ordained priest. And he entered the Salesian circles in Rome, was raised by them in many ways, you can say, remained in Rome, where he received a doctorate in philosophy, later returned to Poland, where he finished his theological studies as well, and was ordained a priest in 1905. He remained in Poland for another couple of years, but in 1909 he was offered a job as a headmaster of a boys' secondary school in Vienna. So again, in the German-speaking world. Digressing, when it came to languages, he was also, just as Pope John Paul II, very proficient. He spoke 12 languages. So he was also very good in diplomacy, something that he would use later on in life, and especially during the Second World War in the service of Poland. he remained in Vienna during the First World War. He stayed there for a total of 13 years, returned to Poland, and in 1922 was made the apostolical messenger responsible for Upper Silesia, where he had been born. A couple of years later, he became bishop and then replaced the previous primate of Poland, who was retiring as the new primate of Poland in 1926. After that, he spent the 1930s fighting a personal crusade against what he called the problem and plague of escapism. The 1930s was naturally a very difficult period across the world. You had the financial crisis that had ruined the lives of many. You had some first steps of modernity after the Roaring Twenties that the church was struggling to adapt with and how to handle.
Adam, I'm just going to have to stop you there. The clock has defeated us, but we'll be back to discuss this. There we are. I've had to stop Adam almost in mid-sentence, defeated by the clock as usual, but we'll be back next time to continue the story. So do join us then, again, on Poland Daily History. Thank you for watching.